Hey class, Professor Ramey here, and this video is a instructional video on how to write your research paper for either your 1301 or 1302 history class. This is a generic video, so I'm not going to be talking to any specific class, so I can use it in different classes as well. So if you have any particular questions, particularly about the theme, please bring it to my attention, send me an email, or contact me through D2L on the message board, whatever, and I can break that down there. But let's get down to to what this assignment really is. All this assignment is to pick a topic and academically research that topic. It's as simple as that. And luckily, through the Lone Star databases, you have access to millions and millions and millions of pages of academic research that's absolutely free, right? So if you take a look at the D2L site, it'll go through the instructions and the major points that you needed to take care of, particularly 5 pages minimum, right? Minimum. You can do more. There's no maximum. You can, but 5 pages, full pages. You want it to at least say page 6 at the end of that research paper, minimum on any topic regarding the particular theme of that semester, right? Fully cited. Now, I do not care which citation system you decide to use. Most Lone Star students have a background in MLA, and if you know MLA, use MLA. If you happen to be in the social sciences or something like that, you might know APA. And if you would like to use APA, that's fine. If you have some history background, you might actually use what we as historians generally use, which is Chicago. In Chicago, well, it's my favorite citation because it looks clean and it's very quick, but a lot of students don't have background in that. But if you know Chicago, you can use that. In other words, use whichever citation system you deem fit, right? I'm not a stickler about citation as far as did you have the semicolon in the right place, is it italicized correctly, things like that. That doesn't bother me. However, you do need to cite your work, and we need in-paper citations here. So in other words, you can't just write an entire research paper and at the very end put a works cited listing all your sources. It doesn't do anybody any good. The whole point of citation is when somebody reads a topic, for them to go, or reads a statement, right? For them to go, okay, where did you get that information? And then you to very conveniently cite it, so I can just go, oh, that's where you got the information, go look it up, and like, sure enough, there it is, okay, on that. So you need to cite inside the paper. Now, one of the big questions I always get from students is, well, how often do I cite? Where do I cite in the paper? Do I cite after every sentence? In general, for this class, I think it's fair enough to just wait till after every paragraph. In other words, after every paragraph, just cite all the sources you use to write that paragraph. If you only use one source to write that paragraph, fantastic, just cite that one source. If you use 2, 3, 7 sources, just list those sources right there in the shortened citation and move on to the next paragraph. Note, if you do use MLA and most major citations, you still need to include a works cited, right? So you just have a shortened citation there and the works cited at the end. If you're confused about any citation systems, maybe you hadn't had an English class, there is a requirement to take this class that you have at least shown proficiency in an English class. But if you have any questions, right? I mean, maybe you're sleeping through the English class, or maybe you just haven't had it. There's numerous sources on the web on how to cite, right? I'd also highly suggest you go to the message board and ask, hey, I don't know how to cite this, and either I or any of your fellow students will help out with it. Citation is so simple. There's something that scares students for some reason. They're worried so much about citation, they forget the whole reason you cite in the first place, which is just to show where you got your work on that. If you keep that in mind, hey, I want it as simple as possible for the reader to find out where I got my work, you're gonna be just fine. But if you have any particular questions, feel free to either email me or, even better, put them on the discussion board, because you might not be the only person with that question. So other standard things in the paper, you can follow along on the research project page right here, 12-point font, right? That's standard. You can do 11, but don't do anything crazy about the font. Double space, that's typical right there. It's easier to read, and if you're handing in a paper, which you're not in an online class, it's also where we can add comments, but it's standard enough right there. So what makes or breaks your grade on the research paper? And it largely comes down to one thing. I don't publish a rubric for this research paper because my rubric is basically most of your grade is going to come down to how well did you actually research your topic. Did you have, in a way, did you have enough sources? Did you actually use those sources? And what is the quality of the sources that you did use, right? To take the last one first, actually, the quality of the sources. The baseline standard for this research paper is every single one of your sources needs to be academic in nature. Now this is where we can lead down a very long rabbit hole to questioning what is an academic source, what isn't an academic source, why do we use academic sources, etc. What I will do is I will publish a short little article explaining what academic sources are that you can read at your leisure if you're confused about that issue. It's a little bit too big for what this video is supposed to be covering. If you just want to keep it simple, you know that old acronym, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I hate calling people stupid. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Keep it simple, stupid. There we go. Keep it simple. Just go to the Lone Star Library article databases. You'll see a link inside the research project instructions. Click on that link, and then you'll see some drop-down menus. You don't need to use primary sources if you don't want to. Secondary sources are fine. You can use primary sources. That's great, but you don't have to. But the second link in particular, so I'm going to go here on this computer that you can't see, just to make sure it says scholarly articles, secondary sources. And it has a list of 5 databases that hold scholarly articles. I would suggest you start with JSTOR, JSTOR, that's the first one on the list. It is by far the best academic database we have right now. It's not that Project Muse and History Study Center aren't great, but JSTOR is the most comprehensive database. And go into JSTOR. When you click on that, you're going to be prompted to put in your library ID number. Unless you're on a campus computer, but since this is an online class, most students are going to be doing this from home or from work or wherever. But you have on the back of your ID card, you should have a 14-digit number. If not, you need to contact your librarian. There's a link there to talk to a librarian, and he or she will set you up on how to get it. You can go to your My Lone Star page to find it, but if you have an ID, just look on the back, put that number in, and you have access to JSTOR, to that database. And there's going to be a bunch of search terms. So when you get there, think of what your topic is, right? And then just start using those search terms to find articles. 95% of the articles they're going to come up in those search results aren't going to be useful to you. Start paring down, look at the titles, read a little blurbs and say, okay, is there possibly any information I can take in this to use on my paper, right? And you grab those sources, you read through them, and that's what you use to write the paper, right? Not the other way around. Don't start writing a paper and say, okay, I need a source now to put some information here. No, take what the sources say and use those sources to write the paper. Let them do the speaking for you. That's the goal of this research project, is to let other people basically tell your work, right? That's the research. That's what you're trying to show that you did. And then now, so that takes care of, the quality of the sources. Nearly every single one of those sources on JSTOR will be academic in nature. The only thing to stay away from, by and large, is anything that says book review. Do not use book reviews. Those are reviews of books. Now you go check out the books that the book review reviewed, but there's no reason to go read a 400-page book to write this paper. So that takes care of quality. How well you use them is basically, did you actually use the material in those sources to write your paper? And if you do that, you're going to be just fine as far as how well you used them. Which leads, of course, to the one I get the most question about, quantity. How many sources should I have? And there's no honest answer to that. There's no real answer to that, right? Because everybody has a different topic. If I assigned a standard topic, say, okay, you have to write about Ben Franklin, or you have to write about Ronald Reagan or something like that, then yes, I can say, okay, go get 6 good sources on it. It's a bit subjective on how many sources you actually need. Here's a pretty good standard, right? I mean, if you're struggling to write your paper, it's not because you're a poor writer. It's not because you can't think what to say. It's because you don't have enough sources. Since you're supposed to be taking what they say, putting it into your own in words in a way, and then using those to write the paper, that should be a pretty good indicator of how many sources you need. Having said that, if you just want to kind of keep it simple once again, I suggest between 5 to 7. 5 to 7 good academic sources are probably going to make a pretty good paper right there. Okay, so you got that. You got your topic, you go and research it, boom, you write the paper, you turn it into Dropbox, and I'll grade through it, I'll look through your sources, et cetera, and get your grade back. If you follow my instructions, you're probably going to do very, very well on this. It really is as simple as that. A couple of things, though, that have happened in past semesters that students get a little bit confused about, I feel I should bring up here. One, what do I mean by taking other people's work and putting in the paper? Is that just cut and paste? No, not that. That's not what we do as researchers and historians. When we're using somebody else's work or some other's research, we digest what it means, right? We say, okay, what are they trying to say? And then we put into our own kind of thoughts, right? We're trying to tell a story in a sense. No matter how bland or dry the story may be, we're trying to tell a story. And we take that work there and we tell the story through it, right? So that doesn't mean cut and paste. You're not telling a story, you're just basically just showcasing at that point. So you need to actually, in some sense, convert it into your own words, but you still need to cite that. You're using somebody else's work and ideas, so you need to say where these ideas came from. Now, can you use direct quotes and directly? Absolutely. Just be limited in those. Sometimes direct quotes, they add a little bit of a variety and a little spice to your paper, so they'd be good if used minimally. Minimally. I'm stumbling. Just use a few of them, because if I pick up a paper and it's just entire 2 pages of it are just a direct quote, I have to ask myself, did you actually read the sources? Did you actually get the information from that sources? So be careful about that, but certainly you can always throw in some direct quotes here and there. I think they're good for a paper if used correctly on that. Typically it's nice to cite directly after a direct quote instead of waiting to the end of the paragraph, but I'm not a stickler on that. Other issues that come up is, yes, on your works cited, you need to give me the link to the article you used to write the paper. Don't just write the title and all that. I need the URL, because I'm going to check some of these sources, if not all of them. Right? This is how I grade them: is I pick up your paper basically. I skim through it real quick just to see if you hit the minimum requirements, get the gist of what it is, and then I just basically go paragraph by paragraph. I say, okay, boom, you said here. You said you use this source, so I go and open up that source. I look through it and I read through it and I say, you said you use this source on page 82, and I look at the work on page 82 and I say, does this correspond to what you wrote here? If it does, you're good to go. If it doesn't, well, that leads into some major problems on that. Okay, and the third and the final issue, and I'm just throwing this warning out, I'm sure I mentioned in my welcome video to the class, it's in the syllabus, and I say again, guys, it's a simple enough project. Do your own work on it and make sure to cite on that. Plagiarism is usually not a big deal on the research paper, in the sense of somebody just taking somebody else's work and passing off theirs their own, because in a way that's kind of what the research project is. That's what you're kind of supposed to do, right? And it seems simple enough to take somebody else's work and cite it, and boom, all of a sudden you have a good research paper. But what I do sometimes get is people that write in their own words or go to a Wikipedia page or something like that and use that information, and then they make up a bogus citation. They say you really got it from this article, a scholarly article, even though what you took it from was not a scholarly or academic article or link. That's plagiarism. That's straight up plagiarism, right? Don't do that. If you get behind something that comes up and you feel you're not able to finish the research paper in time, email me, contact me, let me know. I mean, I can't promise you I'll give you an extension, but I'm at least willing to listen. but you need to do your own work. Don't take any shortcuts, because shortcuts eventually lead to a poor grade in the class. And of course, if you read through the syllabus, you know that the grade for plagiarism in this class is not a 0 on the assignment, but an F in the class. Just felt I'd give fair warning on that. It rarely comes up on the research paper. It's much more an issue on the essays on there. And I don't see it being an issue at all as long as there's fair warning on that. Okay, so to wrap it all up and make sure we're right if you're doing the paper, think of a topic that falls under the theme of the paper. Now that, as long as it loosely ties to the theme of the semester, right? And check your syllabus to see the theme. As long as it loosely ties, I don't care how, I mean, if you can make an argument that pertains, I'm happy with it. I'm not going to be a stickler about that. Come up with a topic pertaining to the theme, go to the databases, find some sources, right? Use those sources to write the paper, turn it in, make a great grade, everybody's happy. However, quite often I get a lot of students that hate writing papers. And I give this option. It works better in a face-to-face class, but I've found it's done okay in online classes too, and sometimes these turn out fantastic. And if you think outside the box, if you hate writing papers, you want to go another route, hey, this is what's for you. Instead of doing a paper, you can turn in a presentation. Now, what do I mean by presentation? You can do a PowerPoint, you can make a video, you can, those are really in the online classes, the only two I've ever gotten, but if you want to think beyond that, right, about a music video or a song somehow that you're playing on, I can work with that, right? What I need you to do is first contact me, say, this is what I'm thinking about, to see if it's workable, especially if you're going outside the realm of the PowerPoint or the video or something like that. And most likely I'll say yes, and I'll give the criteria. Just understand that it's exactly the same. I mean, think about it. If you're writing a paper, you are presenting your research, you're just presenting it in a written format. If you're doing a PowerPoint or something, you're presenting your research, you're just doing it with more visual aids and in a different format. So it's roughly the same thing, and you have the same criteria. Did you use academic sources, or did you use enough, and did you actually use them in your presentation? A lot of students have a lot of fun with these. I know last semester I got some great ones. So if this is something that you're thinking about, absolutely. Send me an email, say what you're thinking about doing as far as your presentation goes, and I'll get back to you with okay, here's how I think you should do it, and here's how you should show your sources, and then turn it in. The only thing, if you do a presentation, there's this implicitly signing off on the fact that I am going to show it to the class. I'll post it up for the class to read and give a link in the discussion board. Don't be scared of that. I just figured I should throw it out there now. I mean, what good is a presentation if I'm the only one reading it? So if you do a PowerPoint, I'm going to have a special module set up for the students' presentations in the class, right, for other people to look at and give feedback on, and there you go, right? So be proud of your work, put it in, make good work, and let the rest of the class see. Okay, I think I hit everything on this video. If you have any questions, once again, post them on the discussion board. Might I say, take the opportunity to at least show what your topic is going to be, right? On there, just sort of throw it in there. Hey, I'm thinking about writing about, humpback whales or whatever, I don't know. And post it up there, let other people, and it gets the conversation kind of going. If you have any questions about research, whether your source is academic or not, put the link into the discussion board. I'll take a look at it. Fellow students can take a look at it. We'll go from there, right? Any questions about citations, same. As always, contact me with any problems, concerns, and have a great day.